A major kiwifruit grower is among a large group banned from selling their crops because they've been injecting their vines with antibiotics.
The Ministry of Primary Industry says the practice is illegal. But Te Puke grower Michael Montgomery's admitted to One News that he knowingly used injections in a bid to save his plants from the vine-killing bacteria PSA. Now, Heather du Plessis-Allen uncovered this story and joins us live. Heather, what more can you tell us?
Good evening, Bernie. Well, for weeks we've been hearing rumours that this has been happening, that growers have been injecting their vines with antibiotics. So we started making inquiries and we found that it's well known in the industry that this has been happening, and it's also well known that it's been practised by industry leaders. This is one of a number of kiwifruit orchards jointly owned by Te Puke grower Michael Montgomery. He's a well-known industry leader. We filmed rows of his kiwifruit still hanging on the vine, unpicked because it's contaminated with antibiotics. When we went to his workplace looking for an interview, he wasn't prepared to talk. Would you like to explain why you did something that you knew was wrong?
No. Say, look, we've sought legal advice on this and we're not going to talk about it publicly.
Michael Montgomery's vines have PSA, a bacteria that spreads through plants and rots them, much like gangrene in humans. The bacteria has been killing vines across the Te Puke region, at last count costing the industry nearly $900 million. In a bid to save his plants, Michael Montgomery admitted to One News he injected the antibiotic directly into 17 hectares of kiwifruit vines. He told us he accepts that was illegal. We asked kiwifruit exporter Zespri how that works. They told us there are two ways. In the first, growers drill holes into the trunks of kiwifruit plants, then push capsules of antibiotics in and stopper the wounds. The second method is through a syringe into the trunk, hooked up to a bag of antibiotics, much like an IV sac. Michael Montgomery is not alone. After One News began investigating, we were told as many as 50 growers broke the rules.
We were surprised when we first heard about it. But you know, you can't make the decisions for every grower out there. They were under an enormous amount of pressure. We've had to deal with the aftermath.
At the height of the PSA outbreak, under very strict rules, growers were allowed to briefly spray a diluted form of the antibiotic streptomycin onto vines before the fruit formed. They were never allowed to inject vines because it's feared that allowing antibiotics into the food chain will eventually cause humans to form immunity to the medicines.
As a grower, it shows you the desperation that's out there. Now, as leaders of the industry, I think it's disgraceful.
By law, any fruit as contaminated as Michael Montgomery's can't be sold in New Zealand and definitely can't be exported. Officials and growers we've spoken to are desperate to avoid spooking consumers and authorities in offshore markets. In a worst-case scenario, an industry insider told One News, if any contaminated fruit did reach nervous markets, they would probably block all of our horticultural products, not just kiwifruit. Zespri says that's not going to happen. It says its tests are robust because after it became aware of the injections, it resorted to testing all orchards before taking the fruit.
I can give it an absolute assurance that no fruit will go on the market, either in New Zealand or internationally, showing any residues whatsoever to antibiotics.
A number of growers, including Michael Montgomery, asked for permission to export their contaminated fruit or sell it in New Zealand. We understand government officials spent weeks on the case before finally deciding this fruit is going nowhere. Now, the Minister told us that government officials are still deciding what punishment to mete out to growers who are found to have broken the law. According to the legislation, if prosecuted, those growers face up to 2 years in jail and/or a fine of up to $30,000, and any corporations found to be breaking the law face a fine of up to $150,000.
Thanks for that. That's Heather du Plessis-Allen in Wellington.